Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's class. And we are still what we are still going to be talking about the introduction aspect to audit and assurance. And from our previous class, we able to know what is the meaning of assurance, what are the elements of what are the elements of assurance, what are the audit related service, and we're able to talk about some of the some of the regulatory framework relating to this particular course. So now when we say what assurance means that you are giving confidence to something, you are giving opinion. If I'm giving confidence to a certain matter, and what you are giving opinion on is what we call the subject matter. The subject matter is what you are giving opinion on, what you are giving confidence to, that you are affirming to it. Oh, it is good. Oh, it is not good. And when we say the subject matter here is the financial it is the financial statement. So you as the auditor, there's a financial statement that is prepared by the management of of the entity. So you will now be appointed by you'll be appointed by the shareholders to come and to come and check this, whether what the management has prepared, whether it is correct or it is not correct. That is what you as as the practitioner, as the auditor, that is what you are doing. In a statutory audit, you are not the one that is preparing the financial statement. No, the responsibility for the preparation of the financial statement is that is the responsibility of the management. It is the management of the organization that is responsible to prepare to prepare the financial statement, not you as as the auditor. You as the auditor, you are just giving opinion, whether it is correct or it is not correct, whether it shows a true and fair view or it does not show a true and fair view. Then after that, we talk about what element of assurance engagement. We say that there are five elements of assurance engagement. We have the first one to be what we call the three-party relationship. What are the three party? We have the auditor, we have the management, and we also have the intended users. The second element is the second element is the subject matter. And the subject matter here is the financial statement. The third one is what we call suitable criteria. When we say suitable criteria are the regulatory framework. They are the standard. They are the rules and regulation. Whenever you are preparing the subject matter, you need to you need to comply with them. When you are preparing the financial statement, what are the rules and regulation? What are the law that you need to comply with? You need to comply with the local law. You need to comply with the international financial reporting standard rule. So when we say suitable criteria are the rules. They are the rules and regulations that when you are preparing the subject matter, you need to comply with. So as the auditor now, we will now be checking. We'll be checking the subject matter against against the suitable criteria, whether it's in whether it is in compliance with the suitable criteria. Then the fourth element is what we call sufficient and an appropriate audit evidence. Sufficient and an appropriate audit evidence. When we say sufficient and appropriate audit evidence, it means that as the auditor, you need to gather a sufficient and an appropriate audit evidence. Sufficient has to do with number. Appropriateness has to do with the quality of it, the reliability of your evidence. And evidence is generated through Through procedure. Procedure lead to procedure lead to evidence. Then we also have the final one, which is what we call we call it report. That is, after you have gathered evidence, you need to write a report to the intended user. As the external auditor, you need to write a report to to the shareholders of the company, to who appoint you. And the main thing that audit is doing is that audit is adding is adding credibility to to the financial statement. That is what audit is doing. The audit report, which is the fifth element of assurance engagement, what it is adding now, it is it is adding credibility to it. Because we can still remember from the agency theory, in terms of we have the principal and we also have we also have the agent. The principal is the shareholder. the agent are the what? Are the director. So whenever the principal appoint the agent, it is the agent that will prepare the financial statement, but the principal will not take it. The principal will not believe that what the agent has prepared is correct. That is when the what? The principal will now what? The principal will now ask the what? Will now ask another party to come and check what the what? What the agent has prepared, whether it is correct. So audit report now that the auditor is issuing is now adding what? Is adding credibility to it. Then we also talk about what level of assurance. We have two levels of assurance. We have what we call reasonable assurance, and we also have what we call what? Moderate assurance. And moderate is given during review, but reasonable assurance is given during audit. And reasonable assurance provide what? It is the highest level of what? Of assurance. And in audit, we talked in the previous class that we don't give what we call what? Absolute assurance. We only give what? We give reasonable assurance. Because when we are saying something is what? Is absolute, that means that you are saying that, oh, it is 100% correct. No, audit is no. We are not telling you that everything is what is 100% correct. That's why we are telling you that it is free and fair view. It is true and fair. So today we are going to be starting with what? With this on the regulatory framework, which we have discussed in the class already, but we didn't what? We didn't complete it. In our what? In the class, we talk about what? It is a what? It is a must for company to have what? External audit based on the requirement of our company heart. It is a must for what? For things, for public listed what entity to have what? To have audit. It is a what? It is a legal requirement for what? For listed and other what? Large companies to have external audit of their what? Of their published financial what? Financial statement. It is a must for a company like this to have what? To have their financial statement being audited by what? By an external what? Individual. External and what? Qualified what? Individuals. But there's what? There's exemption which in our what? In the section 351 of what CAMA also give what? Also give consideration to. That if you're able to meet this following criteria, that means that it is what? You are exempted. No, for every rule, there's always what? There's always exemption sometime. So please, if you are what? If you are now what? If you're able to meet this criteria, then you are exempted. We make mention of this in our what? In our previous class also. A company qualified as a small company in a year if for that year the following condition are what? Are certified. That is, if any of these conditions are what? Are certified, that means that you are what? You are exempted. Based on the what? The section what? Based on section 351 of what? Of CAMA. These are local regulation in what? As far as Nigeria is concerned. So what are some of the conditions? It is a private company and having a what? A share capital. That's one. Another one is that the amount of its turnover, the amount of the turnover that we are referring to here is your what? Is your revenue. You know, we call it sales before, or sometimes we call it what? Turnover. But the new name that we use in accounting now is what? Is revenue. So if your revenue is below what? Is below 2 million. It is a what? It is a private company having its what? Having its share capital. Because most our regulation in most regulation is not only in Nigeria, in majority part of the world, regulation we focus on what? We focus more on what? On public company. We focus more on what? On public company. Because one of the main reasons of having regulation is to protect the public. One of the main reasons of having a regulation is to protect the world, is to protect the public. And that's why we are now focusing on the word on the public company now, because you have what? You have infinite what member. Anybody can what? Anybody can join you. But a private company now, the maximum is what? The maximum is 50. But for a PLC now, it is what? It is infinity. So we now need to what? We need to check the word. We need to check the public very well. And that's one of the main reasons why we have what corporate governance. Because in corporate governance, also our attention is given to the world, to the public company. So let's continue. Audit exemption for what? For small company. It is a private, its turnover is 2 million. Its value of its net assets is what? It's not more than what? 1 million. Or such amount that may be what? That may be fees by the commission. The commission that we are referring to here is the word is the Corporate Affairs Commission, because it's the word is the commission that is in charge to make sure that there's a compliance with the requirements of companies and allied matter. So when we say commission here, we are referring to what? CAC. None of his members is what is island. We explained this already. None of his members is a what is a government or government corporation or what agency or his nominee. The director what? The director between them owed not less than what? 51% of his what? Of his equity share capital. The director between them owed not less than what? 51% of his equity share capital. This is the director that is managing this company. They do not have what? They do not hold less than what? 51% of their what? Of their ordinary share capital. When we say ordinary share capital, sometimes we also refer to it as what? Equity share capital. So please don't forget this word. Don't forget this exemption. It is very, very important. And during our previous class, we also make mention of what? Eligibility to act as what? As auditor. And there's a regulation to that. That who can say that, oh, you are a qualified what? You are a qualified individual. You can act as what? You can act as auditor. There are two bodies in charge of it. We have the what? We have the professional body. Then we also have the what? We also have the government. That is, who are the words, who are the regulatory body that can say that, oh, Mr. So you are what? You are qualified to act as what? To act as auditor. Who are the people that can say that? They are two body in charge of that. We have the what? We have the government. Then we also have the what? The professional body. E.g. now, the Institute of what? Chartered Accountant of Nigeria. So they are the one that can determine the what? The eligibility of what? Of external auditor. Oh, you are eligible to act as what? To act as external auditor. Please don't forget this. And one of the most important things is about their role. There are two now. Government can say it, and ICANN is also what? ICANN is also certified for that. So ICANN can say that, oh, you are what? You are qualified to be an external what? External auditor. The federal government of Nigeria can also establish what? Agency now that can say that, oh, you are qualified to act as what? As external auditor. So now let's now start with the role of the what? The regulatory body. That is the professional body now. Please don't forget, we have self-regulation by professional and by the audit profession. Then we also have what's regulation by what? By government. Please don't forget. Regulation by government and regulation by what? By professional what? Professional body. So let's now start with the one of what? Professional body now, which we make mention of this in our previous class also. So what are the rules? Before I can say that, oh, Mr. So, you are what? You are qualified to be and what? An external auditor. What are the things that they have to do? What is their role? Because they're already what? They're already licensed now. They have the power to say, oh, this particular individual is qualified. This particular individual is not what? Is not qualified. So they also have a role to play. So one of their role is what? Offering what? Professional qualification. Offering professional qualification for auditors to provide evidence that the auditor possesses a minimal level of technical expertise, a minimal level of technical competence, and that's what you are doing now. The institute is is building is building your competency. Oh, you need to write this particular exam. You need to write this. Is to build is to build your technical competence. So that's one of their role. Another role is establishing procedure to ensure that the professional competence of the auditor is maintained. That's very, very important. Apart from you what being you are qualified, okay, that is fine. You also need to update your skills, and that's why we have what we call what professional development program. That it is a must for you to also what to undertake it. Oh, you are a qualified accountant, okay, that's fine. But you also need to what you also need to update your skill, because there can be what changes in the regulation. So whenever there's a changes in regulation, you have to keep yourself updated. There's a changes in the new finance act. So you don't say that you are what you are qualified, oh, that and you leave everything, you no more, you not update your skills again. No. So it is also the what it is also the role of professional body to what to put a mechanism in place so that you're able to what you're able to continue to maintain your what your professional competence. This includes matters such as what ensuring that the audits are performed by what by fit and proper what person who act with what professional what integrity, that you are fit, ensuring that audit is carried out by what by fit and what and proper person who act with what professional what integrity, ensuring that the member carry out their work in accordance with what with the technical work with the technical standard, because everything that you are doing as the auditor, there's already a what there's already a regulation for it, there's already a standard for it, there's already a rules and regulation. So you as the auditor, what you just need to do is just to make sure that you comply with the rules and regulation. That is it. So these are the role of the work, these are the role of ICANN to ensure that their member carry out the work, the audit work in accordance with what? With appropriate standard. With accordance with what? With standard. Every standard that you need to comply with, you have to comply with it. They have to be a what? A full compliance. So that's another rule of what? That's another rule of the institute of now. Ensuring that auditor remain what? Technical competent and up to date with modern what? Audit technique. The way we carry out audit nowadays as well has changed. It is not like before. You can't compare the way audit of what 2021 will be done with the way with audit is being done in the what in the 1999. Because there's a modern technique, there's a modern software that you can use. There's a blockchain, there's the internet of the things that you can use. So these are another role of what? These are another role of the of ICANN now, the professional body, to ensure that what? To ensure that auditor remain what? Technical competent, and you are what? You are up to date with modern audit technique. Some of us that we are doing what? That we are doing CSM in your what? In your business environment, in the external environment, we have what we call what? Now that we usually use what? Pest analysis. We have the political, we have the what? The economy, the social, the technology, the ecology, and the what? And the legal. The one that is usually very, very changing often is what? Is technology environment. Because a new software can come in today, tomorrow you see what? You see another software. So technology environment is very, very dynamic. It changes. Political, if there's no changes of government, they may not change it. But what? Technology environment, you don't have control over it. New version today, another one what? Tomorrow. But it is your work to what? To update yourself. Providing procedure for monitoring and enforcing compliance by member. That is, there's also need to be a what? A monitoring and enforcing compliance by his member with the rules of the regulatory body. One of our fundamental rules, we all know it, fundamental principle. We have what? Integrity. We have what? Objectivities. We have professional competence and due care. We have professional behavior. Then we also have what we call what? Confidentiality. So it is now it is the role of ICANN now to ensure that, oh, our member, are you complying with the rule? You should monitor them. Once you establish a what? A rule, that is not enough. You also need to make sure that the rule that you establish, there's a what? There's a compliance. If there are rules and regulations in your organization, okay, that the management has what? Has put in place. It is not enough for the management now. It is also what? It is also their duty to ensure that there's a what? There's a compliance. Another thing is what? To maintain what? The register of what? Of auditor. Maintain what? The register. So by each word, by each particular time, you're able to say, oh, if I went to what, if a particular member of the public now, you're able to go to what, to ICANN office now and ask them, oh, please, how many words, how many registered auditor do you have in your book? They will be to say, oh, in Nigeria, we have what, we have 250 what, 250 individuals certified. We have 250 companies certified to carry out what, to carry out audit in Nigeria. So it is our duty to maintain what? To maintain on list of what? Registered auditor. So please don't forget, we are talking about what? Eligibility. Eligibility to act as what? Auditor. Eligibility to act as auditor is determined by what? By two bodies. There's a what? The regulatory body, such as what? ICANN, and there's also what? Regulation by what? By government. Eligibility by government. The government can determine that too. So please don't forget this. Offering professional qualification, that's one. Ensuring that your members are what? They are professionally competent. Their competence is what is maintained. Make sure that what audit is being done by what? By fit and what? And proper person. Who act with what? With professional what? Integrity. Make sure that your members are carrying out their audit work in accordance with what? Technical standards. Make sure that your members are carrying out their work with modern what? With modern audit technique. Make sure monitor and enforce what? Compliance. Monitor and enforce compliance with the rules of the regulatory body. Maintain a list of your what? Of your registered auditor. So let's now talk about the what? The regulation by government. Regulation by what? Regulation by government. Like I made mention of earlier, government can regulate it. Professional body can also what? Can also regulate it. The alternative is regulation by what? By government. The government may appoint a what? A public body with similar responsibility with self-regulating what? Professional body. The public body must therefore establish rules and what? Procedure. So what is now the what? What is now the responsibility of the what? What is now the responsibility of the regulation by the government? What are some of the things that they need to do? For approving and authorizing what individual to what to perform the audit work, they can approve, they can authorize, oh, go and do the audit. For ensuring that authorized what auditor have the necessary what the minimum skills and knowledge to carry out the audit work to a proper standard. That is okay. The federal government said that, oh, in order you can carry out audit. Okay, that is one. They can authorize me. Oh, you can carry out audit. One or another role they also need to what they also need to do apart from just authorizing me to do audit is to make sure that I have the what I have the required skills. Is the government also need, if you are authorizing a certain individual to do a certain task, is it also your responsibility to check, oh, this particular guy that you're authorizing to do the audit, is he qualified to do it? Another one is for what? For handling complaint and take disciplinary what measures against the what? Against the auditor where appropriate. In terms of what? Oh, you have authorized me now. Oh, I can do it. That's one. You also need to check, okay, did I have the required skills? Then you should also be, if I'm not performing my task now, you should be waiting that, oh, let's see if anybody is going to make complaint about you. So whenever someone also make a complaint about, no, the way this guy is doing is not what is not good, is not what is not a person of what integrity, then they should also establish a what? A disciplinary measure. A disciplinary what? A disciplinary measure in place. So that it will able to what? It will able to sanction me. Oh, what you are doing is wrong. There should be able to be a what? A penalty for me. So these are the what? These are the these are the roles of the government when you are regulating what eligibility to act as well as auditor. You can authorize. It is also your responsibility to make sure that who you are authorizing also have the required skills. Then there should also be a mechanism in place for handling what? For handling complaint and taking what? Necessary measures. And like we also discussed in the words, we also discussed, let's say as per what? As per section 358 of CAMA, the following individuals are prohibited by the Nigerian law from acting as well as auditor. I make mention of this in the word in our class too. A servant, officers, or a servant of the company, no, you can't be an auditor. A person who is a partner or in employment of an officer or a servant of the company, you are not also what? You are not qualified. A body corporate. Please don't forget this. And that's why you can see I liked it. The park is what is enough for audit, but the way it's what I just need to what bring out some things that are very, very that are very crucial that you need to know. Don't forget this 3 point. Officers or a servant of the company, a person who is in a partner or in the employment of an officer or a servant of the company and a what and a body corporate. So another very important thing that we also need to talk about in the what in the regulatory environment is about what? Is about the rights and duties of what? Of auditor. What are the rights of auditor? What are the duties? Oh, your and auditor, you need to have what? You need to have clear understanding about this. What is your right? What is your duty? Oh, me that I'm what? Me that I'm taking the class, I have a what? I have a right and duty that I need to perform. You also, I have right and duty to perform what? To perform this lecture. You as a student also, you also have a what? A right and duty that you also need to do. So everybody must understand his right and responsibility so that you're able to what? You're able to protect it. Duties of the auditor. The primary duty of the auditor is to what? To examine the financial statement and to issue what? To issue reports. Don't forget this, my people. That is your what? That is your primary what? Duty. Is to what? To examine the what? The financial statement. And what? And issue report on the what? On the financial statement. It is your duty to what? To examine the what? To examine the financial statement. Then when you examine the financial statement so that you check whether the financial statement shows a true and fair view or not, then it is also your duty to now issue a word, to issue a report. And you can remember that the fifth element of assurance engagement is what? Is audit report. It's audit report. You need to issue a report. This auditor report will set out the auditor opinion as to whether the financial statement give a true and fair view, whether it has been prepared in accordance with what the applicable financial reporting framework. That is what are some of the things that will be there in your report. It will contain these two things. It will contain what? Opinion. What is your opinion about the financial statement that you have examined? Or whether it give a true and fair view or not. Whether the financial statement has been prepared in accordance with what? With the applicable financial reporting framework, with the applicable financial reporting standard. Because whenever you are preparing your financial statement, there is a rules and regulation that you need to ensure compliance with. So that is the main duty. And in our local law, which is what in our CAMA, there's also what we also, in addition, the local law may require the auditor to consider a numbers of other matters as part of the statutory audit process. In Nigeria, Section 60 of CAMA 1990 require the auditor to form opinion on this. Whether what they have proper accounting record, please take note of all this. That is, apart from what examine the financial statement, Apart from what? Issuing reports, our local law also give you additional responsibility. Oh, please tell us whether they maintain a what? A good accounting record, whether the company balance sheets, this is a whole time, whether the statement of financial position, but this is karma. This is how it is in the law. In the holding day, we use balance sheets. Now, every one of us know that it is what? It is statement of financial position. If not consolidated, it's profit and loss account, and in agreement with the accounting record and return. Whether your statement agree with your word, with your accounting record. Because every one of us know accounts start from what? It starts from source document. It is from the source document that will go to the word, that will go to the ledger. And it's from the ledger that will go to the word, that will go to the trial balance. And it is from the trial balance that will now be preparing our statement. So we need to check. If you are telling us that your word, okay, you have a word, you have a social item of 1,000 naira. We need to check that. Whether there's a word, there's a evidence, whether there's a word, there's a source document, whether there's word, accounting record and return to serve as a word, to serve as a backup to that 1,000 naira that you're claiming. So whether the company balance sheet, your statement of profit and loss, the statement that you are, whether it's agree, whether they are in agreement with the word, with the accounting record, whether information in the director report for the year, which the accounts are prepared, is consistent with the word, is consistent with the financial statement. Because in the annual report, the director will also give their own word, they also give their own statement, they will also give their own opinion. So it is now, Kama is now giving the auditor another responsibility now, that whether the information in the director report for the year, which the account are prepared, is inconsistent with the financial statement. That is, whatever the director is saying in their director report, there's a section in annual report called was director report. So the director will also give something, and which I'm going to show you. You're going to see what a director report. The auditor report must state if any of the above awards are meant or what or not. At least the auditor, you have to tell us the audit requirement. Do you think is this there? Is it present? So please don't forget, this is your word. This is your duty. Please don't forget, this is the primary duty to what? To examine the financial statement and to issue a report. So what are now the element of your report now is going to show whether the financial statement give a what? A true and fair view, whether it has been prepared in accordance with what? With the financial reporting framework. That is it. Then a section in section 360 of Karma is now giving you additional what? Additional responsibility now. That whether they have a good accounting record, whether the company statement of financial position, the statement of profit and loss, their cash flow, other statement, whether it agree with the word with the accounting record, and whether the information in the director report is inconsistent with the financial statement. So the auditor must state any of the word, any of the above. If all those conditions, if all these conditions are met, you need to also tell us in your annual report based on the requirement of Karma. So that's your word, that's your duty. Then another thing that we now need to talk about now is what is now your what? What is now your right? Because we are talking about the what, the right and what? Right of the auditor. Right of the what? Right of the auditor. Right to what? To access to all what? All accounting what? All accounting record. So right of access to all what? To all accounting books and record. It is your right. You have access to all their. So as we are what? As we are saying, it is the word. It is the right of the auditor to have what? To have access to all what? To all books of accounts. It is your what? It is your right. Right of access to all what? To all accounting books and record at all time. The right to all information and explanation. These are not. Please don't forget this. That is, you can call what? You can call anybody within the company. Oh, please come and what? Come and explain this for me. You have right to all information and explanation. Right to what? To accounting record. If you consider that the accounting record is not enough and you need what? Explanation, it is your right to request. Ask the management. Oh, please, I want to see your what? Your non-current asset accountant. I want to see your what? Your reconciliation officer. Explain to me. How do you do this? How do you do that? So you have a right to what? To all information and explanation. Then it's also your right to receive what? To receive notice of the what? Of the AGM. When is the AGM will be coming up? At what time? At what date? What is the venue? It is your right to receive notification of that. Right to speak when you are also in at the AGM. It's not you are, there's a difference. You attend the AGM and do you speak or do you just keep quiet? So you also have this one. You also have this right to speak at shareholders meeting on matters affecting the world, the audit or the auditor. So you have what? You have those rights. If the company use a word, a written resolution, the auditor should have right to receive copy of all words or all resolution. During the meeting, during the AGM, if there's any word, if there's any resolution, it is the word, it is the duty of you, Mr. Auditor, to receive what? To receive such what? To receive such copy of such resolution. Please don't forget these, my people. These are very, very important things that you need to know. What is the right of the word? What is the right of the auditor? It is the right of the auditor to what? Right to have access to all accounting books and record. Right to conduct, right to all what? Information and explanation. Right to receive what? Notice of the AGM. Right to speak. Right to receive copy of the word of the resolution. So please, this is your word, this is your right. Then you also need to what? You also need to maintain this. Please don't forget this. We talk about what? Let me explain this briefly again. We talk about the word, the right and duties of the auditor. What is the duty? The duty is to examine the financial statement and to also give what? To issue audit report. So what are the things that your audit report must contain? It must contain whether the financial information gives a true and fair view, whether it has been prepared in accordance with the what? With applicable financial reporting framework or not. So in addition to that, based on our company's act, we are also asked to do a what? A certain other what? Other functional, which is you need to give opinion whether they have a proper accounting record. You need to give opinion whether the company statement agree with the underlying record. Then you also need to check whether the information in the what? In the director report for the year are prepared in what? Are prepared in constant word, inconsistent with the financial word, with the financial statement. Please don't forget it. So please don't forget this. These are the what? These are the duty. Then we also talk about the right to have access to accounting record and books, right to all information, right to receive notice of the meeting, right to speak, and right to also receive a copies of the resolution that was made during the meeting. Then let's now talk about this. What is now the responsibility of the what? What is the responsibility of the management and those charged with what? Those charged with governance. Please don't forget. What is the responsibility of the management? Because they also need to understand their responsibility so that there will not be any conflict of what? There will not be any conflict of interest. There will not be any conflict of tax. Everybody have to understand his or her own role. It is very, very important. I have to understand my role. Oh, I need to take this topic. I also understand my role. Oh, these are the way I will conduct this. These are the way I will do this. So each party, the student must understand his own role. The lecturer must also understand his own role too. So what's now the responsibility of the management and those charged with governance? One, in respect of audit and contract to what? So what many members of the public think, it is the management. And those charged with governance are responsible for what? For prevention of what? Prevention and detection of fraud. Prevention and detection of fraud, it is the responsibility of management and those charged with governance. It is not the responsibility of the auditor to prevent or to detect fraud in your organization. No. And that's what we call in audit. We call it what? Expectational gap. Expectational gap is the difference between what the public expect the auditor to do, but according to the law, it is not the responsibility of the auditor to do that. So what are the responsibility of the what? You can see now, we have talked about the duty. What is the duties of the auditor? Duty to examine the what? Duty to examine the financial statement. Duty to issue a what? To give a report. Whether the financial statement shows a true and fair view, whether it is being prepared in accordance with the what? With the applicable financial reporting framework. So what is that? That is auditor duty. What is not the duties of the management too and those charged with governance? So when we are talking about what auditor duty, do you see prevention and detection of fraud? Do you see preparation of the financial statement? Do you see what implementation of what? Effective internal control? Is it there? No, 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 it's not there. So these are what? These are management responsibility. Prepare the financial statement is not the auditor responsibility to be doing that for you. No, it is not the auditor responsibility. Prevention and detection of fraud. Preparation of financial statement. Having a good internal control system. It's not just about having internal control. It's also to make sure that the internal control system is what is effective, is working. They are also responsible to what? To provide the auditor to do what? You also have the responsibility to give access to the auditor to all what? To all relevant information on how you prepare the financial statement. Access to information relevant to the preparation of the financial statement. Additional information relevant to the audit. Maybe there's any explanation that you need to give to the auditor. It is your duty to do that. Unrestricted access to person whom the auditor need access to in order to complete the work, the audit. Like I made mention earlier, oh, as the auditor, oh, I want to see the what? I want to see your reconciliation officer. I want to see your finance manager. That's what, that's the responsibility of the management to provide what? To provide me anybody that what? I would like to meet. I would like to request a certain explanation from that particular individual. It is the responsibility of the management to do that. Access to information relevant to the audit. That's the management responsibility that they need to perform to the auditor. Additional information, unrestricted access to person. Then it is also their responsibility to provide a what? A written representation. Don't worry, we'll be talking about what written representation. And when we say written representation is a word, is a letter that is being sent by the word, by the management to the auditor. And written representation is usually used whenever there's a what? Whenever there's a disagreement between the auditor and the what? And the management. That the auditor is saying, oh, do this, the management is saying do that. No. So the auditor cannot, because it is the management that have what? That have responsibility over the what? Over the financial statement. So the auditor can now what? Can now obtain a what? A written representation from the what? From the management. That, oh, because you have the full responsibility, okay, give me a backup so that in case there's a liability in future, then I'll be able to tender it to the user. Oh, I even try to correct the management, but the management keep on what? Insisting that what they are doing is what is correct. Because based on the regulation, they have the full responsibility for the preparation of the financial statement. So that is it. So, and written representation, please don't forget, it is what? It is a letter that is drafted. It is a letter that is drafted by the what? By the auditor to the what? To the management of that organization. And there's a regulatory what? There's a regulatory standard for that. That is what we call what? ISA 580. And ISA 580 is not in what is not in your syllabus. It is in what is in advanced audit and assurance. So please don't forget this. These are what? These are responsibility of the manager. Prevention of what? You are responsible for what? You are responsible for prevention. You are responsible for detection. Preparation of the financial statement. Establish what? Effective internal control. Provide the auditor with what? Access to information, additional information, unrestricted what? Access. Then you also need to provide a what? A written representation. Please don't forget this. So let's now talk about what? Let's also talk about what professional standard, international standard of audit. And from now on, we'll be hearing about what ISA. ISA means what? International standard on what? On audit. Just like that, you have the what? The IS1, IS2, we have what? IS10 in your financial reporting. We also have what? We also have ISA in our own what? In our in advanced audit, sorry, in audit and what? And assurance. Just like you have what? You have regulation, you have standard. IS 36 is for what? It's for impairment. IS 20 is for government grant. 23 is for borrowing costs. We also have what? We also have the same standard here. That is for what? That is for audit. So we have what? International, we have international standards. And the role of what? The role of auditing standard. And whether it is what? Whether it is accounting standard, whether it is what? Whether it is financial reporting standard, the main purpose of having standard is to protect the public. The main purpose of having standard is to protect the world, is to protect the public. That is what that's the number one rule of having standard. So in audit now, there's a word, there's a standard that you as the auditor that you need to what you need to comply with. The ways and manner that you are going to carry out your audit is already what is already stated. What you are going to do, how you are going to do it, there's already a what a rules and regulation that is already there. Like the written representation I'm talking about is what? That is ISA what? 580. Audit evidence that we have been making mention of is what? That is ISA 500. So if you have what? There's already what? There's already a regulation that you must follow when you are doing your audit. And if you follow this what? If you follow this standard, it is for your own good as the auditor. It is for your own good, so that there will not be what? There will not be liability. Because if you did not do a proper job, people are going to sue you. And if people sue you, it's going to lead to what? You are going to pay damage. It's going to affect your word. It's going to affect your reputation. So you need to what? You need to follow the word. You need to follow the standard. You need to follow the standard. It is very, very low. It is very, very important. Then another thing that we now need to talk about is that what are the process of auditing standard? That is, how do what? Uh, there's a what? This process of issuing standard. There's what? International Federation of what? Of Accountant, IFAC, which some of us we could have heard about this before. And IFAC is a what? Is a global organization for accountancy profession. It is delegated to serving the world, the public interest, and strengthen the world, the profession, and contribute to the development of strong international economy. IFAC have what? 167 members and associates in 127 countries around the world. We have 167 members and associates from what? 127 what countries around the globe. Represent what? 2.5 million accountants in public practice, education, government, service and what? And commerce. Now, this is my what? This is my focus. This is my what? This is my focus. IFAC include what? Four standards. That is, this particular International Federation of Accountants now have five what? Have four board. It have what? International what? Audit and Assurance Standard Board. And that's our focus here. Our focus is this in advanced audit, whether it is in advanced audit or is in what? Is in normal what? It is in normal audit. I'm sorry, I keep on saying advanced audit because this is what most of the since the beginning of this diet I have been taking what I have been taking professional student in what and audits at least every week via Zoom too. So I keep on saying what advanced audit. So for our what for our based on what and audit and assurance, our focus, whether it is what the audit at the skill level, whether it is at the one at what the professional level, our focus is on what the first one, which is what IASB, International what Audit and Assurance Standard Board. We have International Accounting Education Standard Board. We also have International Ethics Standard for what? For accountant. We will also be what? We will be hearing about this too. Then we also have what? International Public Sector Accounting Standard Board. With some of us that you are doing what you are doing, public sector, you could have been hearing about what IPSAS. ICANN is a word, ICANN is a member of what? IFAC. So these are the four board of what? International Federation of Accountants, International Audit and what? An Assurance Standard Board, International Accounting Education Standard Board, International Ethics Standard Board for Accountant. And we also have what? International Public Sector Accounting Standard Board. Now, and when we say what, our focus is now on what? I told you earlier that our focus is on international what? International audit and assurance what? Assurance Standard Board. ISB is one of the board within what I thought. It is an independent what standard setting board that serve the world, that serve the public interest by setting a high quality international standard on what? On audit, assurance, and other related what standard, and by facilitating convergence of what of international and what audit and assurance standard. That is, this particular board is a board that is meant to what? Our focus is to serve to serve the public. Our focus is not for what? Is not for profit. This particular board is meant to what? To serve the public. So how can we not serve the public now? We can serve the public by producing a word, by producing a high quality standard on what? On audit, assurance, and related what standard, and facilitating what convergences of what international and what national what audit and assurance standard. Before, let me tell you, everything that we'll be talking about in this what in this particular syllabus, whether it is here or when you get to the professional stage, we'll be talking about what ISA. But before what? Before, because there's a what now? There's a convergence. Just like that you have what? In Nigeria before, we have our own local law on what? On accounting. That's what we call what? SAS, Statement of what? Accounting Standard. Before we now embrace the word, the international what? Standard. Before also in audit, we have our own what? We have our own local what? Standard on audit. But now we are using what? We are using the international standard on what? On audit. So from the beginning of this syllabus to the end, it is what? It is the international standard on audit that we'll be making reference to. Because there's a word, there's a convergence between the word, the local and the international. So we are using the word, we are using the international law, just like you are using the international what? Accounting standard in your what? In your financial reporting. We are also using the same international law in what? In Nigeria also, relating to what? Relating to audit and assurance as well. In what? In doing so, the ISB what enhance the quality and consistency of practice throughout the world and strengthen public confidence in global auditing and what and assurance what profession. What is now the responsibility of what? What is now the responsibility of ISA? When we say ISA, ISA means what? International what? International Standard on Audit. International Standard on Audit. Both national and international body produce what? Auditing standard. This examination requires the knowledge of what? Now I told you earlier that this particular exam requires the knowledge of what? International standard on what? On audit. That is the knowledge that you require. Then another thing that we now need to talk about is that, we have different number. We have ISA 230, we have 200, we have 500, we have 580, we have 550. So now, let's now talk about that. How did they set standard? How did they set standard? What is the procedure? And you can see I highlighted it. Most of the things that I highlighted are the key things that we need to focus on. How do we set standard? The process of producing what ISA is as follows. One, a subject matter is selected for duty study with a view to eventually issuing a standard. That is, there's going to be a subject is going to be selected. Oh, we want to produce a standard now. Oh, I want to have IAS 45. So if I want to have IAS 45 now, a subject is selected. Okay, that particular IAS 45 is going to be on what? Because we don't have IAS 45. We need to ask ourselves, this standard that we want to produce now is which subject is it going to cover? Is on one matter. So once the subject matter is selected, oh, I want to have a new standard on what? On this particular things. Then after that, once you're able to select the word, once you're able to determine that a subject is already selected, area is already selected, the next thing that we now need to do is to issue what we call exposure drafts. Is to issue exposure drafts. We are going to issue exposure draft. Exposure draft need to be like a document that will cover this area that we are talking about. It will cover the subject. Oh, I want to have a standard on how you can run. That's the first thing. A subject is selected. Oh, a standard on how you can run. Then after that, I will now go on further to be saying that we now need to write we need to write exposure draft on how you can and how you can run. Exposure draft is to contain things that you need to do, the type of food that you need to do, or you need to eat, the type of shoe that you need to put on. Then this one it will contain in it will contain in a document. Then after it will now be exposed. This particular exposure draft, it will be exposed to the it will be exposed to the professional body. And where are we exposing this draft? Is for them to Is for them to comment. Is for them to oh, I'm writing a project now. Then after the next thing, I have determined the area that I'm going on. I've written chapter 1 and chapter 2. I've written up to chapter 3. So in chapter 4 now, I will need I will need some data. Oh, am I using primary or am I using secondary? So irrespective of the whether you are using primary or secondary, then I need to expose this project. How? Oh, please, what is your view about this? Maybe I'm using the primary data. I want to use a questionnaire. Then I will send it to some people. Oh, please, I need your I need your comment. I need your input. So after I've what after I'm able to expose it to them, I'm listening to their comment, then their comment will be what? Their comment will be reviewed. Oh, maybe there's an area that I need to what to amend, then it will be amended. A comment and proposed amendment are considered by what? By ISB. The draft standard is what? Is modified and approved. Then the new ESA is what? New ESA is being what? It will be issued. So please, this is what? This is how a standard is being, this is how we produce a new standard. A subject matter is selected for duty study. The next one is that after a period of study and research, it's what? There's going to be what? Exposure drafts. And after exposure draft, then this particular draft, it will be sent to the public for what? For comment. And after it is being sent to comment, then the comment will be reviewed. Then in what? A new standard will be what? A new standard will be issued. So please, this is how a what? This is how a new standard is being what? This is how a new standard is being issued. This is how a new standard is being what? Is being issued. A comment and proposed amendment are what? Are considered. Please don't forget, once a subject is being selected, after a period of studies and research, if there's a what agreement to proceed on that, exposure draft will be what? It will be issued. After you have exposure draft, this draft, it will be what? It will be sent to the public for what? For comment. After a comment, the comment will be reviewed, then a new standard will be what? A new standard will be issued. So these are what? These are a new standard is being what? These are a new standard is being issued. So these are some of the standards that can be coming across. These are some of the standards you can be coming across in what? In advanced audit as a whole. Whether it is audit at this level or it is at what? It is at the professional level. These are the what? These are the 5 standards that we focus on. We have what? International standard on audit, which we'll be talking about some of them in this level. And what do we use it for? Because each standard have different area of what? Concentration. Each of them have area of what? Area of focus. International standard on audit, when are you going to use it? It is when you are auditing what? Historical what? Financial what? Information. Auditing of historical financial information, that's when this rule is being what? Is being applied. That is when we use this standard. International standard on audit, ISA, when are you going to use it? Is when you are auditing what? Historical financial what? Information. We also have another one called what? International standard on what? On review engagement. International standard on what? On review engagement. International standard on what? On review engagement. When are we going to use it? In the review of what? Historical financial what? Information. That is when we are using international standard on what? On review engagement. Another one is what we call international standard on assurance engagement. International standard on assurance engagement, which is not examined at this level. It is what? In assurance engagement other than what? Audit or review of historical what? Financial what? Information. That is, if you are doing any other tax, if you are doing any other tax that is not audit, that is not review, you are going to use what? International standard on assurance engagement, which is not what? Is not applicable at this level. We also have international standard on what? On related service. International standard on related service. When are we going to use this standard? On compilation engagement to apply on what? Agree upon what? Procedure and other what? And other related service, and which I think I've given you what? A brief snapshot of what we call what? Audit related service. We have 3 audit related service. We have what we call agree upon procedure. We have what we call what? Compilation, and we also have what we call review. Compilation is that you are helping the client to prepare it rather than for what? Rather than for audit. Under compilation, you are helping the client to what? To prepare the information rather than to what? To audit it. Under agree upon procedure, Under agreed upon procedure, the ways and manner that you are going to carry out the task, it will be determined by the client. The ways and manner that you are going to do that particular task, it will be determined by the client. Then we have another one called what? International standard on what? On quality what? On quality control. And this one is what is applicable for all what? It is applicable for all standards. Whether you are doing audit, whether you are doing review, whether you are doing what? Assurance engagement, whether you are doing what? Compilation, agree upon procedure. International standard on quality control is applicable for all what? It is applicable for all standard. It is applicable for all level. So please don't forget this. So the ISA has each ISA contain what? Have this heading. They have introduction, whether it is ISA any number. Each ISA has what? Has this. It have what? It have introduction. It have objective. This if I say what? Oh, ISA what? ISA 200. What is the objective of what? ISA 200? It is there. Definition, if there are some terms that this particular standard is going to define, definition if any, maybe there are some terms, it will also what? It will also give definition if it is what? If it is applicable. Because there are some standard that does not have what definition of terms. So ISA will also contain that if what? If any. Requirements are shown by the word shall and are to be applied as what? Relevant to the what? Relevant to the audit. And it also have what? Application. You know, there's a requirement, there's a difference between requirement and there's a difference between application. Application is that how are you going to apply it? Requirement is that what will you be doing for you to what? To require it. So that means that if I'm doing what? Maybe I'm doing evaluation and review now in audit. There's a what? There's a standard for it. So if I'm doing after I've gotten what evidence now, I'm now reviewing what? I'm reviewing my evidence now. So that means that there's a what? There's a particular, that means I need to use a what? I need to use a certain standard now relating to that. So it's going to have what? It's going to have application. And that one is what? Is ISA 450. ISA 450 deal with what? Evaluation. So that is what? That is requirement. So if I'm doing what? If I'm doing evaluation of evidence now, that means that I will be talking about what? I'll be talking about ISA what? 450. That is the requirement. It is when you are doing that particular task that you are going to require it. If I'm still at planning stage now, I will not be, I don't need what? I don't need ISA 450. Then the application and other what? Explanatory material, which is for the guidelines, but it will also be what? It will also be provided. You know the application, how are you going to apply it? So each ISA contain what? Each ISA contain this. It contain what? It contain an introduction, the objective, the definition, requirement, and what? The application and other what? Statutory material. Then let me also explain this thing as what we call professional judgment. The nature of what international standard requires the what? The professional accountant to exercise a what? A professional judgment by applying what? By in applying them. You know, this is a word, this is a principle base. It is a conceptual word, it is a conceptual framework. It is a principle base. So it allow what? It allow room for professional work. It allow room for professional judgment. It is only in a what? In a rule-based environment that what? That professional judgment is not what? Is not allowed. But in a principle base, it is what? It is allowed. It is what? It is allowed. Professional judgment, it is allowed in a what? In a principle-based environment. And each of these ISA also allow what? Allow professional judgment. It allow what? Accountant to use their what? To also use their discretion. There's no a laid down rule that you must follow all the time. You can also use your own work. You can also use your brain. You can also use your discretion when you are carrying out the work. When you are carrying out the work. So ISA what? ISA allow what? Allow professional work. Professional judgment. Then let's now talk about what is 200. And ISA 200 cover what? ISA 200 cover overall objective of the independent audit and the conduct of audit in accordance with what international what standard. That is ISA 200. Like we said earlier, that each ISA contain what? Each ISA contain what? Introduction, it contain objective, it contain definition, the requirement, and what? An application. Don't forget it. Each ISA contain what? It contain introduction, objective, definition, requirement, and what? An application. So starting with what now? ISA 200. What is the objective of what? Of ISA 200? The objective of ISA 200, the objective of the auditor are formally specified in ISA 200 as to obtain a what? A reasonable what? Assurance. A reasonable assurance whether the financial statement as a whole are free from what? From material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. That is what? That is objective of what ISA 500. Is to what? To obtain a reasonable assurance whether the financial statement as a whole are free from what? Are free from material misstatement. Are free from what? From material misstatement. So ISA what now? ISA 200 is saying that the auditor to obtain what? Should obtain a reasonable assurance whether the financial statement as a whole are free from what? From material misstatement. Whether due to fraud or what? Or error. Then to report to the financial what? To report on the financial statement and communicate as required by ISA in accordance with what? With the auditor finding. That is, you also need to write a report. So what is ISA what? ISA 200 saying now? ISA 2, what is the objective of what? ISA 200 is that for the auditor to what? To obtain a reasonable assurance. Try as much as possible. Obtain a reasonable assurance whether the financial statement are free from what? Are free from material misstatement. Material misstatement that can be caused by what? Fraud or error. So if the financial statement are free from material misstatement, then so that you as the auditor, you're able to give opinion, oh, the financial statement shows it, what shows a true and fair view. Then you also need to now report. You need to report on the financial statement and communicate as required by what? By ISA. Whether the auditor is unable to obtain a what? A reasonable assurance and a qualified opinion is what? Is sufficient. The auditor must disclaim an opinion or resign. So as the auditor now, whenever you do not able to what? You do not able to obtain a reasonable assurance and a qualified opinion is what? Is insufficient. Maybe their accounting record is not good, everything, the way they prepare, that you do not able to what? To get, you're not able to generate evidence that you are going to base your own work, that you are going to base an opinion on. The auditor must disclaim an opinion. There's what we call disclaimer. But that's not what there are different type of auditor opinion, but that's not applicable in your what? That's not applicable in your what? In your syllabus. So as the auditor, please, based on what? Based on requirement of what? Based on requirement of ISA, based on requirement of ISA 200, obtain a reasonable assurance, and you need to what? You need to write a report. ISA 200 require the auditor to do what? What are the requirements? You know, we make mention of earlier that ISA will contain what? It will contain introduction. It will contain what? It will contain introduction, objective, definition, requirement, and what? An application. So ISA 200 also require the auditor to do what? Comply with all what? With all ISA relevant to the audit. Comply with all what? With all ISA relevant to the what? Relevant to the audit. Comply with what? Ethical requirement. Plan and perform audits with what? Professional what? Skepticism. And when we say professional skepticism is what? Is what we call what? Is kind of attitudes of what? Questioning mind. That is, whenever you are performing your audit, perform your audit with attitudes of what? Questioning mind. Questioning mind in terms of what? Don't believe that what the management is saying it is correct. Try as much as possible to generate your own evidence by yourself. Try as much as possible to generate your own evidence by yourself. Try as much as possible to generate your own evidence by what? By yourself. That is what we call professional skepticism. Exercise professional judgment in planning and performing the work and performing the audits. Like we make mention earlier, that ISA allow what? It allow professional judgment. You can also what? You can also use your discretion. It is allowed. Obtaining what is sufficient and what? An appropriate audit evidence to allow him to obtain a what? A reasonable what? Assurance. Because for you to say that, oh, the financial statement give a true and fair view, or it does not, you need what? You need to have evidence. And your evidence must be what? Sufficient, and it must be what? Appropriate. So please don't forget this. ISA 200 require the auditor to do what? Comply with all ISA relevant to the audit. Comply with the what? With the ethical requirement, which we are still going to talk about. Plan and perform audit with attitudes of what? Professional skepticism. Exercise professional judgment in planning and performing, then obtain a what? A reasonable, a sufficient and appropriate audit evidence, so that you're able to give a what? A reasonable assurance. So these are what the what is 200 require the auditor to do. What are the objectives? The objective of ISA 200 is to what? To obtain a reasonable assurance whether the financial statement are what? As a whole are free from what? From material misstatement. Material misstatement that can be caused by what? Error or fraud, and to what? To report on the financial statement. That is the objective. What are now the requirements of what? ISA 200. Like ISA 200 requires the auditor to do. It requires the auditor to comply with all what? It requires the auditor to comply with all what? All ISA. To follow ethical requirements. To perform your work with attitudes of what? Professional skepticism, professional judgment, and obtain a what? A sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. So let's now talk about another one, what we call what? Scope of the audit. The scope of the what? The statutory audit as described in the what? In the independent audit report is contained the following. And don't worry, I'm still going to show you some words on annual report, so you are going to see it practically also. So when we say scope of what? Scope of audit. The scope of audit is what? It is described in what? In the independent audit report. Contain the what? The following points. Can audit involve what? Performing procedure to obtain what? Audit evidence about the what? The amount and disclosure in the financial statement. Okay. The procedure selected depend on the auditor judgment, including the assessment of what? Risk of material misstatement of the financial statement, whether due to what? Whether due to fraud or error. Please don't forget this. When we say scope of audit, the scope of the statutory audit are described in what? In the independent audit report. Contain the what? It contain the following point. Audits involve what? Performing procedure, Abi? It is procedure that will lead to what? That will lead to evidence. Please don't forget. For you to have evidence, that means that you need to perform what? You need to perform procedure. The end product of what? Procedure is what? Is evidence. Procedure selected depend on the auditor judgment, because based on the ISA, we allow what? We allow professional what? Professional judgment. So the procedure that you are going to select now, it depends on your own judgment. The procedure that you are going to select may be different from the one that we select, because professional judgment is what is allowed. Procedure selected depend on the auditor judgment, depend on what? The assessment of risk of what? Material what? Misstatement. In making those risk assessment, the auditor consider what? Internal control relevant to the what? The entity preparation and what? Fair presentation of the financial statement. In terms of what? When you are considering the procedure, one of the things that will determine your what? That will determine your procedure is the internal control system. If the internal control system is what is good, there's a different procedure that you can do. If it is not good, they are different things. So the internal control system also have something to say about the auditor procedure. Audit also include evaluating the appropriateness of accounting policy and the reasonableness of accounting estimates made by management, as well evaluating the overall presentation of the financial statement. That is, there's no how we'll talk about audit that we are not going to talk about evaluation. Evaluation of the accounting policy, evaluation of the record that you have gathered. Can audit work is typically involve two phase. We have what we call interim, and we also have what we call final. We have interim, and we also have final. Interim. When we say interim, like some of us, maybe if you have lucky, you can work for listed companies, or even though if it is not a listed company, it is good for you to have your to have your interim to you have your interim account. That is your 6 month. So we can be doing we cannot be doing audits in two phases. We can do interim. Oh, if you issue your interim financial statement, then it should come along with auditor report too. Then your final audit, which everybody usually wait for. Interim audit, this is performed before the end of before the end of the accounting period. From the word interim, when you just add something interim, I mean that it is not that is not the final. Discussion with the staff and management designed to enhance the auditor understanding of the entities and the environment. Recording information about the internal control and performing some preliminary testing or substantive procedure. That is audit in your field work now, you can divide it into two. You can divide it into two sections. You can have interim. And when you are doing interim, some of the things that you can perform during interim is that you can have a discussion with the management. That's one. Recording of information about their internal control is number two. Then you perform some testing, some substantive testing. These are activities that you can do at the interim. Discuss with the management so that you're able to have understanding about the entity and its environment. Because before you start audit, one of the things that you have to do that you must have understanding of is the entity and its environment. It is very, very important. Just like in business, if you want to establish any organization, if you want to have any strategy, one of the first things that you have to do is understand your business environment. If you do not understand your business environment, if you develop a wrong strategy that is not it is not in accordance with your business environment, that strategy will not succeed. So as auditor, also for you to perform a good work, you need to understand the entities and their environment. So how will you do this? Have a discussion with them. Read certain regulation certain regulation that is applicable in that industry. Those are another way you can get understanding about the entity. Their internal control also is also source of what? It is also a source of information to understand the entities. Don't forget this. How can you understand the entity? Through their law, the rules and regulations they're supposed to comply with. I can gain understanding about the entity through that way. Their financial reporting standard, I can use it to gain understanding about the entity. Their internal control, I can also use it to gain entity about about the entity. What about their stakeholders? Maybe their suppliers. I can get information from their suppliers that will also enhance my understanding about the entity and its environment. So record information about their internal control, perform some substantive testing. Final audit. It is performed after after the year ended, when the draft financial statements are available and included in the full year balance. Even though a company issued their entering, that is not enough. We are still going to be waiting for your 12-month financial what? 12-month financial statement. So let's not talk about this. Lastly, we're going to talk about advantage and limitation of what? Advantage and limitation of audit. Advantage and limitation of audit. Audit have enough what? It have a numerous what? It have a numerous advantage. It have a numerous advantage. It increases the credibility of the published financial statement, which we have been talking about. It increased credibility. Yeah. It confirmed to management that they have performed their statutory works duty correctly. That is, if the auditor say that the financial statement shows a true and fair view, it is a confirmation that the management is doing the right thing. It is a confirmation that the management are doing their duty. So what is the advantage? It had credibility. It confirmed that the management are doing their statutory duty. Another one is what it provides assurance to management that they have complied with what? No statutory requirements, such as corporate governance requirement. Because it is also what? It is also what auditor duty. There's no how we talk about audit that we don't make reference of what? Corporate governance. It is very, very important. So it provides assurance to management they have applied what non-statutory requirement correctly also, that they have done their statutory. That's one. Non-statutory duty, credibility. And it provided what? A feedback about the effectiveness of the what? About the effectiveness of the internal control. It provided feedback about the effective, about how effective their internal control is. Because there's no how we'll be talking about external audit that will not be talking about what internal control. Internal control system is very, very important. And every organization, every public company must have internal control. Having internal control system is not enough, but you must also make sure that it is what that is working. So the limitation, it is cost because you have to pay the auditor as one. Destruction of what work. That is, there's no what, especially those in what in accounting department. It may disturb your what your work activities. And in audit, we should always try as much as possible to reduce what to reduce it, but we can't eliminate it. We will always disturb you, but we should try as much as possible to reduce the disturbance. So that's another limitation. Some item in the subject matter might be what estimate, whose true and fairness may not be known. Will not be known with a what is certain to the point in the what in the future. That's true. There's estimate in the what in the financial statement. There's estimate. The financial statement is full of estimate. The financial statement is full of assumption. So we may not know to the final judgment, to that particular event occur. So that's another one. That's another limitation. Most fraud will include attempt to deliberately conceal the truth and misrepresent the information. And there can be fraud, which includes what? To deliberately conceal the truth about the financial statement. In order to balance cost and efficiency, the auditor routine usually was sampling than test every time. And that's it. You know, I told you something earlier that in audit, one of the reasons why we can't give absolute assurance that it is 100% correct is as a result of sampling. In audit, we are not checking everything. We are still going to be discussed about what sampling. We don't discuss everything. We don't check everything, rather. We do what? We do sampling. Let's have our population, then we're able to have our sample size. So if I have a population of 50 and I check 40, what about the remaining 10? Maybe that's where the misstatement is. So that's what it serves as a limitation to audit. So we only try and advise auditor to what? To increase your what? Increase your sample size as much as possible. In respect of how robust the client system are, there's always what? Incorporate some degree of what's inherent what limitation. In terms of there's no how your internal control is. There's no how your system is robust and effective. There's already what? There's inherent limitation. Inherent in terms of what? It is not everything that is correct. And since it is not everything that is correct, what about the little one? Audit evidence is what? Is persuasive rather than what? Conclusive. It is persuasive rather than what? Conclusive. Audit evidence, auditor evidence does not guarantee the future. Audit report does not what? Does not guarantee the future. If the auditor say that the financial statement is of true and fair view this year, does it guarantee the next year? No, it does not. So these are what? These are limitation of audit, and these are some of the what? These are the advantage of what? These are the advantage of audit. So this is what please don't forget. Let me do a brief recap before we go. We started from the what? We started from the regulatory. Started from the what? We started from the regulatory framework. And under the what? Under the regulatory framework, we talk about our what? This is where we started with the regulatory what? Framework. That is a must to have what? It is a must to have audit. We talk about some exemption. If it is a what? If it is a private company, its turnover is not more than 2 million. Its net assets is not more than 1 million. None of its members is island. These are what? These are the exemption. We also talk about eligibility. Eligibility to act as what? External auditor is determined by two bodies. It's determined by the professional body, e.g. ICANN, and is also determined by what? By government. Please don't forget them. We also talk about the rights and duties of the auditor. What is your right? What is your duty? Duty of the auditor to examine the financial statement, to issue audit report. That's one. Issue audit report that will show whether the financial statement shows a true and fair view or not. And based on our own local regulation, Kama is also asking auditor to provide this other information, whether they have a what, whether proper accounting record are kept, whether the company statement is what, whether the statement agree with the accounting record, whether the information in the what in the director report is what is correct. We talk about the right to what, right to have access to all accounting books and record, right to all information and explanation, right to receive notice, right to speak at the company's meeting, right to receive what's copy of the what the resolution. What's the responsibility of the management? We talk about that too. Then we also talk about standard. Talk about that. Please have a what? Have a good look at them, revise it, and the video will also be what to also be provided to you. So at any time, please what make reference to it. So thank you very much and what God bless you all.